Welcome to the Brian Murray Show, a real estate show, New Jersey style. My first opening discussion today is going to be about why I shot a video in a bathtub. A few years ago, I shot a series of videos about topics that were of interest to buyers and sellers in the local market. And the most popular one was me in a bathtub. You can see a clip of it here. Talked a little bit about, it was actually my own bathtub, and it was the jets in back when they built a lot of these buildings in the early 2000s here on the western side of Hoboken. They put in the jacuzzi bathtubs with those little jets, and it sounded like a good idea at the time. It was like a spa in your home, but the problem was those little jets, they're near impossible to clean. And so what happened was that the mold would build up in there, and you'd have to take some Clorox or some bleach or something, and you try to get it and scrub it in there, and you could never get it all. And so you'd turn on the water to maybe take a jacuzzi or to take a bath, and then the black stuff would finally come out and be floating all over the place. And so I did this video in the bathtub about that whole concept, about what's going on and why that was a bad idea. So when you're buying a home or thinking about adding some things to a home today that you might look at and say, hey, that seems like a good idea today, but what's it going to be like in 5 or 10 or 15 years when it becomes out of fashion? Keep in mind that if it's something expensive like a jacuzzi, it's going to be hard to replace, where if it's something like, it was an iPod holder on the wall where I can just unscrew that and pull it out and put in a USB socket instead, that might be something that's better to go with. Or if you're going to be installing speakers in the ceilings, that given that there's wireless technology today, that you don't even need to do it, you don't need to spend the money on it. So my discussion for today is really about making sure that what you're spending your money on today is going to last 5 years, 10 years, and when you go to sell, that somebody's actually going to value it for anything. The hot topic today is what's a good investment? I get that question all the time. Hey, I'm interested in investing. What's a good investment, Brian? And the answer to that question is always a follow-up question that I have is, well, what is your criteria? What's your end game with owning a property? Because there's really only two ways that you make money in real estate. One is for appreciation, and the second is for cash flow. And cash flow means that your rents exceed your monthly expenses when you figure in the cost of your mortgage, the cost of the interest on that, the taxes, the HOA fees, and the insurance and any other miscellaneous repairs that you might have on that. So that's your cash flow. Or appreciation, meaning that maybe you don't care so much about the cash flow. You're willing to, I even have properties that are a little negative in their cash flow, but they go up in value over time, significantly in value over time. And given that I'm leveraging those properties with a mortgage, that if they go up by 10% over time, well, and I only have 25% down, then I've really gotten a 40% return on my money. So what's a good investment? It's really going to depend on your criteria. That's why you really need to have a discussion with a real estate professional. It sounds like a cliche, but somebody who really knows what they're talking about with investing, to say, hey, what are you trying to accomplish here? And to have an answer to that. Because if I get someone that comes to me and says, I want to invest in real estate, but they don't have an answer in terms of what do they want to accomplish, then I'm not sure that they're going to be a real estate investor. Or someone who says, hey, I would like an investment property, but I want something that I feel comfortable that I could live in. Well, investment properties are different than what you live in terms of either you buy for appreciation and you don't really care so much about what it looks like, or it's all about the numbers. So as an investor, ask yourself some of those basic questions. Reach out to me. I'll go through a checklist of questions with you about what's a good investment for you. That's today's hot topic about investing. And just one last piece that I'm going to jump into here is that in today's environment, the interest rates are everything. You can get as an investor, it'll cost you about a quarter point more than it will a traditional mortgage. So you can get an investment property at around 3.75, 4% on a 30-year fixed, or 3.25, 3.625 on a 7/1 ARM. The interest rates are everything to investors today because it lowers the monthly cost of investment. It'll allow you to buy a more expensive property. It'll allow you to get better cash flow. And we're seeing properties right now in the local market that do cash flow with 25 to 30% down. And that's a really important thing when you are an investor. It's interest rates today. Thanks for watching The Hot Topic. This is Brian Murray with Ask the Expert. I'm here with Joe Berg of Pinnacle Mortgage. And Joe, in Hudson County, Hoboken, Jersey City, the urban environment, there's a lot of condos that are called unwarrantable or have unwarrantable mortgages. Can you explain a little bit about what that is and what it means for the buyer?
Absolutely. And this is actually a more simple answer than the media lets it to believe. A non-warrantable condo just means that it does not meet Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac regulations. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but they basically produce a condo questionnaire checklist that all buildings must meet. How many people own or occupy in that building? How many people rent in that building? Has everybody paid their HOA fees? How many people own more than one unit in that building? Is the building in litigation? If they don't meet their checkpoints, it means it's non-warrantable. That's not necessarily a bad thing, meaning that you won't get financing. But what it does mean is you're going to have to look at, you have a smaller pool of banks that will lend in the building. And that's pretty much it.
In terms of rates, what would that mean for a rate if it's a non-warrantable building?
That's a tough, sometimes the rates can actually be better depending on what portfolio banks are lending in the building. And then sometimes they can be slightly higher. You tend to see higher fixed mortgage rates in non-warrantable buildings, but adjustable rates tend to be very low.
So if you know that the building is unwarrantable, say you know there's litigation or one of the other boxes aren't checked, does it make sense to go to one of the big banks and go through their hoops and apply, the big Manhattan banks that we won't mention here, or should you just immediately go to like a mortgage banker who has multiple outlets?
When you know a building is non-warrantable, you should have your agent actually check to see if he or she knows any certain lenders. Like Brian would tell you, hey, listen, I know specific banks lend in that building, and follow their advice because they are the pro. To go through a bigger bank, which we won't mention, you could just call somebody like me who will find out for you, and we do the exact same thing. And it saves you a lot of time and energy and frustration.
Thanks, Joe. This is Ask the Expert.
No problem.
The good, the bad, and the ugly segment. Today's the good. Now, some of you are maybe not going to agree with me on this, but the good is, did you hear that Tom Brady is looking to buy a house in New Jersey? Now, what does that mean? It only means that the greatest quarterback of all time is maybe coming to New Jersey. Now, for some of you Jet and Giant fans, well, the Giants don't care so much, but the Jet fans, that's got to be painful. However, what it also means is that there's great housing stock in New Jersey that Tom Terrific would consider our state to make his next part of his life. I mean, I know he has places in Manhattan, but now coming to New Jersey really means that he's doing what a lot of other people have done in the past, which is moving to the suburbs. So the good is that there's a possibility that our state will have Tom Brady and that he'll pay a lot of taxes on his gazillion-dollar mansion, and that people will come here to visit his home much like they do Springsteen's home, and that they'll buy things in the shops and the restaurants along the way. So the good, we hope to welcome Tom Brady. The bad, which is the opposite of Tom Brady, is the parking authority. And specifically Hoboken and Jersey City parking authorities are the bad. I don't even have to tell people why they're bad. But here's some things about the parking authority that just are bad. One is that, first of all, in Hoboken, you have green signs with white letters, and then you have white signs with green letters. You can only park as a visitor on a white sign with green letters, but if you park on the green sign with the white letters, you're going to get booted, and then eventually towed or booted, and you have to pay $1 gazillion to get out of it. So only white sign with green letters. Can you keep that straight? And then, if you're in Jersey City, here's the thing, is that I've gotten a ticket for parking in Jersey City, and I parked legally in Jersey City. But the problem is that where you have to go to fight your ticket in Jersey City is in a place that there's no parking. So what you end up having to do is pay to go into a lot, to then go through some metal detectors, to go and sit there for like 5 hours to find out the judge hasn't gotten there yet, and then you have to go back out and repay some more in the lot to then come back through the metal detectors again, and then they're like going back and forth through the airport. So basically what they do is they say, just pay the ticket, because there's no way you're going to get out of paying one way or another for parking in Hoboken and Jersey City. And that's what makes it so terrible, is that even when you're right, you're wrong, and they're right. So that's the bad. And the ugly are to follow upon the parking authority are these crazy no parking 24-hour signs. You probably see them all over the place. Oh, there's a parade. No parking 24 hours. Hey, there's a city festival. No parking 24 hours. Hey, we're doing some utility work. No parking 24 hours. But the real problem is that nothing here is 24 hours. Yeah, the utility guys, now, it's no parking 24 hours Monday to Friday. But around Wednesday, they show up on the block. And then they'll work for 4 or 5 hours, and then they all leave. But it's still no parking for 24 hours. Just like the parade, it's over. Or the festival, it's over by 6 o'clock. No parking 24 hours. So they just eat up large chunks of spots for 24 hours when they only really need it for 6 or 8. How about a little honesty? How about the parking authorities just saying, hey, we understand that you don't need this for 24 hours, so we'll have some sort of a flex sign here where you can click on a barcode on it, and you can go and see, hey, do they really need it 24 hours, or today can you park there from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. the next day? But they don't want that, because they want you to park there so they can tow you, so they can ticket you, so that you can have a miserable quality of life around having a car in Hoboken when you should be taking a bike or a scooter or walking instead. So that's the bad, is the 24-hour signs that the parking authorities use as leverage over all of us citizens. That's the good, the bad, and the ugly this week. And for my closing inspiration from the great Zig Ziglar, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. This is the 3rd episode of the Brian Murray Show, and hopefully we're getting a little better every time. Thanks for watching. If you like the show, please share it on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I do appreciate it. I welcome your feedback, your comments, your questions. And if you do disagree with anything that I said, please let me know, and I'll be happy to show you why you're wrong.